take 2 of this week's Inquisition. So hopefully people can join. I'm not going to send out any invites. I'm going to accept their invites. Because I think whatever is hang... Right, here we go. Right, Pickle Jar. How you doing, mate? Let's try this again. Right, Simon accepts. Simon is unable to join. Excellent. Accept Pickle Jar. Go live with Pickle Jar. Hello again, Peyton Do 3. ADHD minis. Pickle Jar. We finally get Pickle Jar on, folks. That's it. How you doing, Pickle Jar?
Alright, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, man. Thanks for joining us. Sorry about the technical issues there. It seems to be every week we have this issue with Instagram. This is the longest it's actually taken. So
Fine. It's kept saying, I'm sending you another invite. I'm like, where? Where is it?
Yay!
And as you can see, folks, scratch off your bingo card. Simon is still wearing the same hoodie, and he's still wearing his.
That's a different hoodie. It's a different hoodie. It's got a grey lining. The other one had a yellow, orange lining.
That's because you've been wearing it that long that it's actually went from orange to grey.
No,
because still wearing the
other one's got Dragon Ball Z on. This is no Dragon Ball Z on this one.
So, Pickle Jar, thanks very much for coming on, mate. Sorry it took so long there, but it was sometimes Instagram just does that to us. It's an absolute nightmare. Just want to say thanks for coming on.
No problem.
I might put you in the loving, caring hands of Simon because he's on his break this now, so we'll let Simon kick off the Inquisition this week.
That was a very quick intro, Dunk. I wasn't prepared for that. Yeah, thanks for coming along. For those of us in the chat, well, those of the people in the chat who don't know you, tell us a bit about yourself, what you do, and how you got into the hobby.
Right. My name is Josh, or Pickle Jar is my YouTube handle, Instagram handle and stuff. I make YouTube videos and post on Instagram, just helping people enjoy their hobby a bit more, teaching them things, showing them things, and just generally trying to be a bit of a positive person in the sort of community, I guess. How I got into the hobby. I started collecting the Lord of the Rings Partworks magazine years ago. I went into my local games shop, all Lord of the Rings stuff, and then walked out a couple of hours later, arms full of Space Marines. I've never. And then yeah, it's just sort of been pretty much in the hobby since then. I think a bit of a hiatus for a few years. I think most of us did in my sort of like late teenage, early 20 years, but then came back quickly and been back in it since. That is a short story about me.
So some of us will know you from, I think that's where I first saw you when you were with Luke at Geek Games Phoenix. So, I mean, how did you meet Luke? Has he somewhat been you came across as you've been friends for a very, very long time, like pre-YouTube?
No, we didn't know that each other that long before I started working with him, if I'm honest. He got in touch with me, another one of my friends, quite a few times before, and I mentioned, you pick his brain about YouTube stuff and have a chat with him. And then later on that same evening, I just got a phone call, and he went, "Hey, up, it's Luke." I'm like, "Who?" And then he explained to it, where I was like, "Oh, okay." And yeah, since then we met up, we talked about YouTube stuff. He gave me loads of pointers on filming and editing and content stuff. And we ended up just getting on quite well. We live fairly close to each other compared to a lot of the other like sort of YouTube people. Yeah, and we ended up being really good friends, and then I think we met up. It were about a year. And then obviously worked with him for about a year. So yeah, it was we'd not known each other for that long really, but we just got on really well, just very similar, and obviously the same sort of enjoyment of the hobby.
And what led you down the YouTube path? Where did that come from? Because it's not. I think it's quite the norm now. But I mean, if you go back a few years, you didn't get anywhere near as many like hobby channels as you do now. So What prompted you to make the leap?
Like everyone and his dog's got a hobby YouTube channel now, and I mean, for better or for worse, I decided. Well, I started my YouTube channel originally as just a bit of a mismatch of all sorts of things. When I first started, I was doing video game reviews. I was doing personal vloggy stuff. I was doing a bit of miniature painting, a few other bits and pieces, and then I sort of did that for about 4 or 5 months, 6 months maybe, and then sort of went, do you know what? The thing that I enjoy doing the most is the miniature painting stuff because it's two of my hobbies combined. So that's what I started focusing on a bit more and then stuck with it. I just wanted to do it because mainly because it was to fill a gap. I used to do music. Used to do musical theatre, and then I decided to take a bit of a break from doing shows. The amount of rehearsal time into that, I was suddenly going to have loads of free time. So I thought, well, I'm going to have a go, do a bit of YouTube stuff. I like video editing. Didn't really expect it to do anything. I just thought it's just going to be something for me to do, like just a bit of a hobby. And then, I mean, to be fair, that's still how I look at it now. It's just a hobby. It's just something extra that I do. It's not my full-time job. And yeah, I just figured that the main ethos that I sort of live by now is just try and help people with the painting and just show people. I think a lot of people look at a bigger YouTube name, and it seems very unreachable and unattainable. So what I like to do is show people, look at this, good. Here's how easy it was to do. Like anyone can do this. Like there's no limitations there. As in as little effort as possible is my sort of work ethic.
And did you go back to the musical theatre? And is that what your full-time job is now, or have you branched off into doing something else?
So that was just the hobby. I have a lot of hobbies. I'm still involved with the theatre group. I've not been on stage since then. The intention was to do YouTube for a year, just take a break off and have that as something that I enjoyed doing in the meantime, and then go back to it. Yeah, my channel sort of, I mean, it didn't explode massively. I think I'd only gained about 100 subscribers by the end of that year. Pardon me. But I was enjoying doing it, and the amount of time, especially back then when I used to do like a video every week, the amount of time I was putting into it, when it came to start doing the next show, I sort of went, I'm not going to be able to have time to do it. I said, maybe I'll get another year and I'll see. And then like that year, I've like over 1,000 subscribers, and I'm enjoying going somewhere. So yeah, I've not been back on stage. Society, I'm on their committee to help with organising things and helping run things, but I've not been back on stage now. But it's not. That wasn't my job. That was just a hobby. I'm actually a teacher at school at the moment.
Sorry, what was that? I never heard what you said at the end there. Sorry, what did you say at the end there?
My full-time job. I'm a teacher.
All right. So what is it you teach?
It's IT, mainly like computers, but I cover a lot of other classes as well. So I'm going to cover about anything else that they'll throw at me.
That's pretty cool. And so, how many YouTube videos? Are you still doing one a week, or is it? Have you dialed it right back now to maybe like once every two or 3 weeks off? Or now?
Like at the minute, it's dialed even further back than that. A couple of years ago, I was taking a look at what I was doing, and I was stressed. I was so stressed, and I didn't have any time for anything else because I was putting so much pressure on myself to get a video out every week, same day, no exception. It meant that I was missing out on social stuff with friends. It meant that I was missing out on like my partner and my son. And I sort of looked at what it were getting me. And I was like, realistically, I'm not gaining much from doing this. Like for the views that I was getting. So I dialed it back then, and I said I'm going to try and do one every 3 weeks. And that is generally what I try and aim for, is usually one video every 2 weeks or a day. But over Christmas and especially like the last few months since September when we started back at school, I've just not had a great deal of time for any sort of content creation, if I'm honest.
Yeah, like I would say, like I was so thankful that we had a kind of break, and probably Simon and Casey, if he was here, would say the same, that we had that break over Christmas from doing the Inquisition, because you actually don't realise how much time and effort goes into doing something like this until you actually do it. You know what I mean? And so I totally get what you're saying about missing out on things and missing things, because like it's now like I kind of overbooked us this month, and we're pretty much doing 2 shows a week, which is a lot to ask, especially if you've got like wife and children and like jobs and that, to try and juggle things
Yeah,
to do 2 shows a week.
it's a lot, and it's like sometimes I just want to sit down and I just want to paint something, like in filming. Feel the sort of guilt at the back of your head, like you should be filming this. This should be content of some description. I've just sort of sat myself down and give myself a bit of time. Said, I want to make, like, especially like I think for me, the reason why I went so hard into trying to do stuff with YouTube is the job I was working at the time. I did not like. So I sort of pushed myself into YouTube, and I just saw my channel grow. And then obviously, I started working with Luke, and I worked with Luke doing YouTube full time for a living. But having now been on that side of it and seeing what it does to people, and the even more stresses involved. I'm working a job that is something that I've wanted to do for a long time. I'm sort of, I feel comfortable just treating this as a hobby. All the videos I've done recently, and the one that I've literally just been editing before I joined you guys. I'm just working on some of the Monster Hunter stuff from the Monster Hunter board game. You know, it's not going to get millions and millions of views in paint, and if I can put them out and it's going to help other people paint the stuff, then great. That's all I'm bothered for.
And just before I pass you on to Simon, I was looking through your Instagram page today, and I must say, like your Monster Hunter wee guys are absolutely amazing, by especially the one that looks like a bearded dragon. I fucking love that painting. I love that figure that you did. I think it's absolutely cracking. How long did it take you to do roughly each figure?
They're not long. They're really, really quick paint jobs, because it's all the Monster Hunter stuff. It's so detailed and like got texture on it that you can get away with just using, like, I think the Great Jagras, the lizard one that you're talking about, I think that took me maybe 4 or 5 hours, because a lot of it is just sort of like blocking out colours with a paintbrush, and then just lots of tidying up stuff. Like they're really, really easy to paint. So the main thing with those, because obviously they're based on video game characters, monsters, whatever, getting the colours right so that you look at it and go, I know what that is, because the colours are right. So that's the main thing with them. Yeah, they're all really easy models to paint.
Just touching back on the fact that you did do YouTube for a living for a while, is that an experience that you enjoyed? Is it something that you're glad you did, or is just working, doing the job you're doing now, just that no pressure? Because, well, there is a amount of pressure, but not pressure as in you're working for someone rather than working for yourself. Obviously, YouTube can be quite up and down. How did you find that experience in total? How was it?
I'm glad that I did it. I'm glad that I did it, because I got to work with my mate, which, you know, that's always good. And I got to do. I mean, it is the dream. It is everyone's dream. Like, anyone that is in the hobby would love to just be able to sit and paint stuff or build stuff or make stuff, and then that's their job. Like, it's the dream. I think what a lot of people don't realize or don't think about is it's not just that. So, like, we ran the channel, the Geek Gaming Scenics channel, which was a channel about miniature painting and 3D printing and like building terrain and stuff like that. I think probably, I would say that about 25% of our time was actually doing that, and then the rest of the time was editing and making thumbnails and speaking with sponsors and speaking with other companies and admin stuff. I mean, and it's all those extra bits. And the other thing as well is I didn't have any time off. Time off because if something needs doing, then it needs doing. So like I didn't get to just go, right, that's end at work day, I can go home and that's it. Because if I got a message saying this needs editing or this needs changing or we need to do this or sponsor earlier or whatever, then you have to sort of do it. You don't have the luxury of just going, no, it's our office hours now. But I am glad that I did it because it's an experience and it's made me way more appreciative of what I've got with my own. I'm glad that I did it. I'm definitely glad that I did it. But if I'm honest, it's not something that I would like to go back to.
Yeah,
like I've seen behind, done that. I've ticked it off my list. Quite happy, just having a normal job and then doing this as a hobby.
I think what I enjoyed from when Geek Gaming Phoenix was some of the, I guess I'd call them like hobby version of the Top Gear challenges. Like when you'd go up to, was it Mayfield Miniatures, and you'd have a budget and you'd have to buy an army and get it painted, things like that. You also did some really insane builds. Some of the builds that you two did were fantastic. Which one was your favourite out of all those builds?
I would say probably, I don't really know. Like so, two stuff doing. I'll be honest, I wasn't massively involved with because most of that had been done before I started. Like literally on my first week there, I think I did some on the town board for that, and I edited stuff for that. But I wasn't involved in the actual building of that. Favorite build is probably, if I'm honest, is probably the table that I built for myself. Like the little desolate town village. That was a lot of fun to do because I'd never done a proper scenic board. So when we got to sit down and do that, I said I need to do a video for my channel. If we do it, and then we can do a video on the Geek Gaming channel that is sort of your side of it, like teaching me, like my tutorial, and yours can just be you abusing me. And obviously Luke loved that idea. So yeah, I'd probably say that one. That is my favourite one, and that table at Mayfield now. I donated it to them because I didn't have space for it in my house. So I donated it to them, and the kids that go there get to play on that table now. So that's cool for them.
And just before I pop off back to work, so recently I noticed you were doing some Shatterpoint stuff, Star Wars stuff, and I think you got Mikey from Hellstorm involved as well, it's good to see Mikey do something that's not 40k related. So here's the big question now. These are two massive franchises. Arguably Star Wars is the bigger franchise. But which and it's Space Marine helmet behind you, so it's Star Wars or 40k, you can only choose one. Which one would it be?
Star Wars, easy. I've played 40k for a long time. I can't, and this is going to be controversial, I can't remember the last time I enjoyed playing 40k. Like, properly enjoyed it.
It's not controversial. Yeah.
I like the models and I like painting them, but for me, I think the last time I enjoyed playing 40k, I think probably like right at the start of 8th edition, where everyone was just using an index. Everything was fairly level. Just go, I could take one book and that was it. That was probably the last time I properly enjoyed it. I think since then, I enjoy playing the games because that's usually because I'm playing with friends and it's more about I'm getting to hang out with my friends. But whenever I think about Organ, I'm like, I've not played 40k for a while. And then I think about all the stuff that I need to do to organise to take with me, all the books that I need, how to pack all the models, because they don't just fit into like a normal box. There's all pointy bits and spiky bits, and they're all massive or weird shapes. Because I play Necrons, so obviously they are. So it just gives me a headache. Every now and then. I don't think I played. I think I played last year. I played a few games of the what's the rule set called where they've got the pre-made lists.
The combat patrols.
A few games of Combat Patrol using my Tyranny last year. I did that in my local store, and the only reason I did that is because my Tyranids were in the shelf in my local store, so I didn't have to take anything because they were already there.
No, I think that echoes a lot of players right now. I mean, I'm one of those players that actually put something on my page about it the other week, that I'm just not enjoying 40k anymore. And I think when I speak to other players, they always harken back to like the early days of the index days of 8th. I think that was like the golden age now for recent 40k players. So I'm going to hand you over to Dunk because I have to get back to work. I was expecting Casey to be here as well, but he's not. So I'm going to leave you in Dunk's capable hands. Who's luckily for you a really massive Star Wars fan and a bit of a lore nerd. So I'm sure there'll be lots of Star Wars chat. Thank you very much for coming along, Dunk. I'll speak to you later. Bye bye.
You know what I mean? Thanks for coming on. So before we go into like Star Wars, because I'm a massive Star Wars fan. I've even got the Empire of the Black Sun tattooed on my arm. ADHD touched on it. And there's a question I was going to ask you as well. I see here, I've seen in your page earlier that the last army you painted was the Tyranids, because you'd never painted Tyranids before. But what was the first army that you painted?
First army that I painted was my Space Marines. When I first started the hobby, when I was early to mid-teens, I started off by buying some of the Lord of the Rings stuff, the magazine that was coming out, the Partwork magazine, and then I went to my local Games Workshop and I ended up just collecting Space Marines because I sort of went, that looks really cool. I love sci-fi. Tell me more about that, and that's what I ended up coming out with. I ended up coming out with loads of Space Marines and doing that, and then I had a lot of sort of second-hand stuff that I got off friends. So yeah, my first army that I did, it wasn't like a pre-made chapter. It was just my own color scheme. They were very, very boring. Pretty much just one color, dark green, all over them, highlighting, and then all the helmets were just silver, and that was it. So they were like really boring Dark Angels. I mean, Dark Angels are boring already, but they were really boring. So that was the first army that I painted, and I think I stuck with them for, I can't really remember now. It feels like not a long amount of time, so I'm going to say like maybe 6 months or so, maybe a year. And then I started doing Necrons, and then that's been my army all the way through until, well, I had them all the way through until just before 8th edition, and then I think it was a few weeks before 8th edition got announced, and I'd stopped playing, all my friends had stopped playing, my gaming group had sort of died off. They'd just been sat in a box. Must have had like about 4,000 or 5,000 points to Necrons, maybe even more, to be honest. And they were all just sat there, and I went, do you know what? Someone else might as well get some use out of these, because I'm not using them. So I just put them up on, I'm killing myself now, but I put them up on Facebook Marketplace, like 5,000 points of Necrons. I'll have 100 quid, please. Yeah.
Oh man. You must be gutted now.
So, they went, and then literally, like, I think it was like 2 weeks after, they announced 8th edition, and all my friends were like, yeah, we're going to start playing 40k again. And I'm like, are you joking? So when 8th edition came out, I couldn't go back to doing Necrons.
Right.
Started doing Dark Eldar instead, because they were one of my other armies that I'd always looked at and liked the look of. So I did Dark Eldar, and I did Dark Eldar all the way up until the 9th edition box came out with Necrons in it, and I went, right, now is the time. I'm going back to Necrons, and now that's my 40k army is Necrons again now.
Yeah, I'm starting to collect those decent wee collection of Necrons myself, and for me, I'm Death Guard and Necrons. It's just something about Terminator 2 that just drags you back to Necrons, I feel. But I love the old Neckies. Just a pity I don't have any of the Pariahs. I don't think they make them anymore. I'd like to have painted a few of them.
I've got,
Just
which I've been meaning to paint. I picked them second hand. So I've got like a set of 5, and I'm just going to use them as Treyarch Praetorians, just like old. At some point, to be fair, I've got enough old Necrons that I could do like a little combat patrol just of old Necrons at some point.
Yeah, like, cause, like, as I said, like, I'm a massive Star Wars fan. Like, I even tried to name my son Anakin, and my wife, like, compromised with calling him Lick. And I only got into Warhammer. Like, I always knew about Warhammer when I was younger, but for me, it was always like the rich boys that got it. And then I read a really bad Star Wars book, and then I started reading the Horus Heresy, and then just before lockdown, that's when I started painting the miniatures and that. So I used to paint Hero Quest and Space Crusade and the occasional Battle Masters. There's one for the bingo card people. So yeah, I'm very late to the party of like Warhammer. I've only played a few games of 10th edition, and for me it's just rolling dice and trying to remember what Mortarion does when he's all alone and getting gangbanged off of some what do you call the Emperor's guys? The Golden Boys is kind of what their names are now. But so yeah, like so you started you started off with Necrons, and then you went you've done your Tyrannus. So I totally lost my train of thought here what I was going to say. Apologise, but I'm really sorry about that. What would you say you prefer painting, the Necrons or the Tyrannus? What was more of a challenge for you?
I don't really know, because how I pick my paint schemes is I try to look at stuff and go, what is the main focus point of the majority of this army? So for the Necrons, the main focus point is all of the metal, all of the bodies are pretty much identical. There's like very little variation in there. Like there might be like a couple of extra like bits of detail or some ornamentation or something that I can just go over quite quickly, but like 90% of the models are the same colour. So the main point for them that stands out is the weapons. Yeah. They're all the same colour, but if I can really make them pop and stand out and be really bright, then that makes that army eye-catching. With the Tyranids, I struggled a little bit at first because I did like 3 test models before I started painting properly, because I couldn't quite work out how to. I knew what colours I wanted to use, but I couldn't quite work out like the proportions of each colour, or like how I wanted to paint them. So I tried doing like some dry brushing, or like stippling dry brushing application. I tried doing just normal brushwork, and then I tried the airbrush method, and then that's the one that I ended up going with from the Tyranids. So usually I sort of look at something, I try and work out what the main colours are going to be on that, and then I work out what's going to be the quickest way to get the most work done, because that's the other thing that I always try and do. I try and get loads of work done early on, so then when I slow down to do the detail work, it doesn't feel like I've made no progress. So like that's why I like to start off with the airbrush a lot of the time, because I can usually block out the majority of the model in whatever colours it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
And then from adding details, adding some shades maybe, like there's a few bits and pieces. So I didn't really struggle with either of them. The Tyranids were sort of done and dusted in like a day. Like
Right.
I sort of cracked. The Necrons are like an ongoing project. Like I've been painting and filming for a while. I got these obviously before they came out, the new Necrons.
Oh yeah.
I've done all the metal work on them. All the bodies are done, and I just need to paint the weapons. But I sort of got so far through painting them. I'm actually planning on doing a video talking about this at some point. But I got so far through painting, did all the metalwork and the bodies, and then all I need to do is the weapons, and they're done. And I sort of went, I'm not going to use them though, am I? Because I'm never going to. Okay, so they're going to look cool. They're going to go in a video, and then they're going to go on my shelf, and then that's it. And I will get them finished, because you know, they are nice models. The new Necrons are nice models, bar a few mold lines that could have probably been done better. But generally, the new Necron models are quite nice.
Yeah, I painted. Sorry, folks, for my big baldy heat there. I got this model thinking it was going to be class to paint and build, and it was an absolute nightmare to actually build. It's like I hated this model. Like I just wanted it, and I just dropped them. Just wanted it done and dusted. It just really, it was just such a pain in the arse to build and put together and glue. I hated that model so much, and I find that with the flayed ones as well. You think you've got them in a position where you're trying to glue them, and then when you take your fingers away, they'll just fall apart. So annoying sometimes. But yeah.
The flayed ones. I had a lot of people complaining about them, and then I got a set and built them, and they weren't too bad. That one that you've just showed, the Cryptek, that's a pain. And funnily enough, like I've built that model and then I was like, I've got through building it. It was an absolute pain in the arse, but now I get to paint it. That was, I think, 2 years ago. It's still stuck the paint on it.
Yeah, I went through two or three different schemes for my Necrons. I did the initial one in this traditional black and gold, and I wanted mine to be a bit different, so I kind of came up with my own homebrew, like Necron Dynasty, and I tried blue, purple and green, and I was like, oh, it's a bit horrible, and I kind of settled on this kind of metallic blue with undercoating with silver, highlighting with dry brushing with yellow and white, and then doing Talisar blue to get a kind of metallic look. And I've kind of I make all their faces white as well, and then the power centers are all like yellow. Kind of just with my own like dynasty, and I just wanted mine to be different instead of just painting the bog standard like silver or gold like for the main body chassis, which I think quite works out quite well. Is see with your own Necrons, is it your own homebrew dynasty, or they just like you're just painting them?
I've just ended up when I did Necrons before. When I first started painting them, I painted them all purple and then dry brush silver over the top, so it was like a metallic-y purple. And then the weapons were just the sort of the green as normal. And then I decided I didn't like that scheme a few years in, and I repainted them all.
Mm-hmm.
And they were all like a light blue. All the heavier armor parts, so like the Immortal shoulder pads or any heavier armor bits on them were like a darker blue, and all the weapons I painted like a sort of glowy orange.
Right, that'll be true.
But then when I've restarted my Necrons with 9th edition coming out, I've just ended up painting like going for similar-ish to the box art, but sort of in my own style. But it's that sort of bronzy, that worn bronze, the armor, and then it's green for the weaponry, but it's like I say, it's done in my sort of style, so it's not box art style.
So I'll just try to touch on Star Wars here, because like it has been mentioned, and since Celestine's just said that the Necrons are mind of R2D2, and you're looking forward to season 3 of Bad Batch coming out, the third and last season.
So Bad Batch is the only animated show that I've not finished watching yet. I can't even remember. I can't remember if I've finished season. I've watched all of Clone Wars and I've watched all of Rebels, and I know I've started watching Bad Batch, but I can't remember how far through I got. But I was enjoying it. I can't remember why I stopped watching it. I think I was watching it over the summer, and then obviously when I've gone back to school, that makes me sound like a child. When I've gone back to work, what episode am I on? I can't find it now.
It was such a good idea to like make up a show about.
Right. I'm on season 1, so I don't think I finished season 1.
Miles to go then. It's such a good show, like for the aspect that, well, what did they do with defective models? You never thought of that in the Clone Wars, and for somebody just to think of, well, let's call them the Bad Batch. But like for me, they just remind me of the Predator team and Rambo combined together. Just missing army, really. That's what I feel like they're portraying.
That I liked about Clone Wars was getting to see, because like you sort of look at Star Wars and you go, all the characters are like all the Jedi, and then the clones are just clones. Like there's nothing to them. But then when you watch like Bad Batch, or when I've watched the Clone Wars picture, like you get those episodes where you get the character and you can see that all the clones are their own different characters and stuff, and like they might have been like from the same thing, but they are all individual. They've got little quirks and stuff, and then seeing the Bad Batch is like that. The extreme of that is quite fun.
Yeah. I mean, it's such a good show. So, like, of all this stuff that's come out recently, what's been your favourite and least favourite that you've watched?
Of the Star Wars stuff.
Yeah, of all the Star Wars stuff that's come out recently, with live action and animated stuff, what would you say has been your top and least favourite to watch?
I don't really know what my favourite would be, because I think I really liked Ahsoka. I think that's because I just finished watching Clone Wars, Rebels. Clone Wars and then Rebels, and then I pretty much timed it, so I'd finished my run through of those for when Ahsoka came out, so I was right up to date with everything, and it was all so fresh. But I mean, I've liked every season of Mandalorian. I've enjoyed. Book of Boba Fett were a bit weird. Like I parts of that, but then sort of went, I don't understand what's happening now. Well, not that I don't understand it, but I don't understand why it's like having Mandalorian season 2.5 halfway through Boba Fett. It just seemed weird. Like, but I did like a lot of that. I don't think there's anything that I've particularly disliked. If I had to pick one that I've liked the least, it'd be Book of Boba Fett, but I still enjoyed it overall. I just thought there were some strange choices.
But for me speaking, I would say I liked Ahsoka to a certain extent. Like, I think with Ahsoka and the Mandalorian, the standout things for me is the characters. Like, so like Baylan Skoll is probably one of the best new additions that they've done, as well as the Armorer. I really liked her vibe in the first two seasons of The Mandalorian as well. I thought that was a really good character to have, like a strong, like female. And for me, Baylan Skoll was kind of like an angry, bitter Ben Kenobi. And I'll be really interested to see what they do for season 2 with having to recast Baylan Skoll. But I think probably the most underwhelming one, if you take out the Darth Vader Kenobi lightsaber fight, is probably Kenobi, just because of the lore aspects of it, where Princess Leia obviously would remember going on an adventure with Obi-Wan Kenobi. You know what I mean? Like, so I think in the lore aspect, that for me was a disappointment, because I was like really looking forward to it. And I think that the book of Mandalorian, the book of Boba Fett, I think they've done Boba Fett a bit dirty. Like, they try, like, I'm a big Boba Fett fan as well. Like, but I feel, but I think, and I didn't really like Andor. The first 4 or 5 episodes of Andor for me were just too slow, and then it kind of ramped up then when he went to jail. But yeah, I think with all the series that have been out, probably season 1 of the Mandalorian is probably the strongest, and then they've been hit and miss. I feel like each show's had its good things and bad things, but overall it's probably been pretty mediocre, I feel.
Yeah, I feel like Andor's definitely. I felt exactly the same, to the point I had to try watching that 3 times. I think I got 3 episodes in. Every time I tried to watch, and every time I sort of got to that point and went, "Why am I still watching this? I've given it 3 episodes." But everyone kept banging on about it and telling me how amazing it were. So I was like, I need to persevere and get through this. So I watched a bit more, and I ended up really, really enjoying it. Like, I really enjoyed it. But it started off. It did not grip me until like episode 4, episode 5.
Yeah. Once he went to jail, I think it ramped up. It ramped up then, and especially when you found out what they were building, which was quite smart. It just felt as though the first 3 episodes were just dire.
Yeah.
Dire.
Yeah. I feel like being half of the course with, I mean, like beating a dead horse at this point, but just with Disney in general, it's not just Star Wars. I feel like the Marvel stuff's been very hit and miss as well. Like a lot of their stuff recent, pretty much since Endgame. Like everything since then has been either average or bad. I don't think there's been any genuinely good content coming out of like the Marvel Studios for a while now.
I mean, not every person needs a TV show as well. And when they announced Kenobi, I was a bit apprehensive because I've read the Kenobi book, and the Kenobi book was really good. I thought if it maybe just stayed in Tatooine, and I know you're thrown in the Inquisitors, and that would have been quite interesting to have as well. But I just don't think you needed to lose Tatooine. I think they could have had enough adventures fighting Tusken Raiders and protecting Luke Skywalker. Do you know what I mean? Like, so some of the things just didn't need explained or didn't need a show. We didn't really need a bit the book of Boba Fett. I feel we really didn't need that because it was they kind of done them dirty a wee bit. I feel, but that's just me.
So you're quite a big Star Wars fan then?
I'm a massive Star Wars fan. Like as I say, like I know so much. Like I know so much about the lore, and I tried to name my son Anakin, and then I wanted to call him Boba Fett. My wife vetoed that as well. And then she settled on Luke. I'm a massive Star Wars fan. Like I've got all the I had all the figures when I was wee. I've got the Empire of the Black Sun tattooed on me as well. So yeah, I'm a bit of a closet. I'm a bit of a geek when it comes to Star Wars. More Star Wars than I would like. I'm learning more now about the lore of Warhammer, but I would know way more lore about Star Wars and the Sith and all that than I would anything like Warhammer. I'm learning more now with the Warhammer stuff. But yeah,
That's not cool.
so like, what do you do when you're not teaching and you're not making YouTube videos? What does Josh like to do when he's on his downtime?
There you go, lightsaber. What do I do when I'm not teaching and when I'm not doing YouTube? And
Yeah, what do you like to do in your downtime? What does Josh like to do when he's not YouTubing or teaching the youth of Britain?
I mean, to be fair, I like to paint. I like to just paint for myself. Like that is, even though I do it for YouTube, like these models that I just go, do you know what? I just want to paint this model, and I'm not interested in filming it. I'm not interested in it being content in some way. I just want to paint it because it looks cool. So I do just paint, and I'll just sit and paint stuff. Other than that, I play Dungeons and Dragons. I have a weekly game with a bunch of friends that I've been playing in for a long time now. I also at school I run a Dungeons and Dragons club for some of the kids at school. Other than that, I read comic books. I play video games. Like I said, I'm still involved in musical theatre as well. Just not on stage, just sort of helping. That's about it. And then just normal stuff like watching TV and normal grown-up stuff.
And how old is your son? You said you had a son earlier in the podcast. How old is your son? Has he picked up the plastic crack addiction yet?
He is 9. He is 10 on Monday. He has done some painting, and he does it. He just doesn't always think to do it because it's not his first sort of port of call. It's not his main hobby. 9-year-old's fortnight. Yeah. But yeah, he has bits and pieces of painting. He's got a handful of Stormcast that he's sort of been painting and been enjoying doing. So we're going to our local GW quite a lot, and he looks around and looks at stuff, and yeah, likes painting those. I've told him once he's finished painting the stuff that he's got, he can have one of the dragons. because that's what he really wants to get in. But I've told him he's not having one until he's painted more of the stuff that he's already got, which feels a bit kettle black. But yeah, trying to get him into good habits.
Yeah, you don't want to start his pile of shame too soon, too young, because it'll just, by the time he's 19, he'll have no room to paint anything, I suppose, just with the backlog. And does your partner, does she partake in any of the hobbying as well? Does she just leave you and your wee man to themselves, to your own devices?
No, Wendy does bits of painting as well. Not quite as often as I do, just to be like properly in the mood for it. But to be honest, Wendy is. If Wendy put the time in that I put in, Wendy would be a far superior painter than I am. Painted the first miniature, which was a Harlequin model, a few years ago now, and spent some time on it doing it. And I looked at it at the end and went, "That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that this is the first thing you've ever painted, and you've gone in for something that's got like checkered trousers and all that sort of detail that's not sculpted on. Like you have to paint that on." But yeah, if Wendy painted as much as I painted, she would eclipse me in a heartbeat. So I'm quite glad that she doesn't paint as often as I do, because I'd be out of a job. And
do any of your what age group is it you teach? Is it high school? I think it's high school that you teach in, is it?
It's comprehensive school, so it's 11 to 16, 17-year-olds.
And is it any of them actually accidentally found your YouTube channel and come in and say, "Oh, I found your YouTube channel, sir"?
I kept it a secret for as long as I could, and then one day one of the kids that was into Warhammer found my channel, and then proceeded to tell everyone in school, or told his friends, and then their friends told friends, and then they're told, and it's just common knowledge now. It's just common knowledge that I have a YouTube channel. It's in some ways it's helped quite a lot, because a lot of them sort of look and they start off a conversation about it in like a jerky way, like, "Oh, Sir's got a YouTube channel," but then when they see like the amount of subscribers and that it's actually fairly successful, they're like, "Oh, fair play, like well done." So it's a bit of a double-edged sword, because it's cool that they've got that thing and they can see that, you know, there's more to not just me, but like a lot of the other staff than just being teachers. But by the same token, I've had to be a bit more careful with like social media stuff, because obviously down here they can find. I've had to make my TikTok account private because I had people like following and trying to message stuff, which obviously I can't have. It's not, you know, I don't want that. Be a bit more careful.
I suppose it's a fine line, especially with today's technology. Being a teacher and still being relatively young, like I suppose it's a fine line that you have to tread, and keeping your personal, but still being approachable as a teacher as well.
I mean, the way that I look at it and is that none of these things are my personal accounts. They're all my YouTube channel's accounts. Mm-hmm. My personal Instagram page. This is my YouTube channel's Instagram page. So, I if any of them ever comment and stuff, it gets deleted, because I just avoid contact outside of school. Because, yeah.
I mean, you want to keep yourself safe. If you don't want to be putting yourself into a position or then getting hauled in front of the headmaster and stuff like that, it's not worth it. It's only a hobby at the end of the day, but it's a hobby that you want to keep separate from your professional life as well, I imagine.
Yeah, exactly that.
So picture the scene, Josh. You're sitting on a Thursday night, you and the missus, and you're thinking, "Do you know what? I could go a can of juice right now." What is your juice of choice? Is it Pepsi? Are you a Pepsi man or a Cola man?
Well, there's the only two options. Pepsi or
Cola. It's like, what do you drink, Pepsi or Cola? What would be your choice out of those two if you had to pick one?
Just plain normal Pepsi and plain normal Coke.
Well, it can be any of the Pepsis and any of the Colas. Like, I'm a Pepsi Max man, so I would like to. I occasionally treat myself to a full sugar Pepsi, But we're in a kind of sugar-free house right now because my wife's a type 1 diabetic, so we don't drink full sugar juice in the house.
Yeah, if I get to pick any of the flavours, I'd pick cherry Pepsi Max.
That's disgusting. And to accompany your Cherry Max, what would be your crisp of choice? Any crisps out there?
Beef hula hoops.
Ooh, that's pretty solid. Pretty solid. And if you had the choice of any juice, because you did say if it was just, what would be your top tier juice that you'd like to consume of an evening if you had your choice?
I feel bad now because you've just been saying about like not having much sugar. It would probably be a can of Monster. Or coffee, to be fair, or a coffee.
I actually thought you were going to say they're dandelion and burdock because I've only ever met one person that drinks that. It's absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting.
It wouldn't be my first choice to have a drink to buy.
So a wee cheeky question here from Art by Tom Green. If you had to paint a Space Marine, what chapter would it have to be?
Salamanders.
Why the salamanders?
Because they are green, and that is my favourite colour. And they have fire on them, and fire is...
To cleanse the heretic. We need fire.
I've got
cleanse the heretic.
I've got all the Space Marines from 9th edition box and all the Space Marines from the Partwork magazine. And the intention was to paint a Salamander army, and I painted one, and so I went, that took a lot of time.
So, are you watching any good TV shows just now? Like, what kind of shows would be your vibe just now for watching?
I'm not currently watching anything actually. We have. Well, I mean, I'm constantly actually. I'm perpetually watching The American Office. And then just a constant loop. Like I am never not watching it. It's a bit of a comfort show. But me and Wendy have just finished watching Frasier. We started watching that a few months ago now. We watched all of the old series, and then we watched the new one that they did on Paramount Plus, just like last week or the week before. So we're in between shows at the minute. We are sort of partway through a Star Trek run as well. So we're about halfway through Deep Space Nine. But we've sort of took a hiatus from that to watch Frasier. But we usually like to have a couple of different TV shows on the go at once. We have one like longer episodes, so like Star Trek, and then we have one that's like shorter, sort of 20-minute episodes that we can watch like while we're having as tea.
Yeah. For me, like I go through a stage where I'll watch all of The Office, and I usually put it on at night when I go to sleep, and then when I've done all that, then I'll go through It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I love Always Sunny in Philadelphia. But me and my good lady wife, we are currently watching a TV show on Disney called Snowfall. Pretty good, man. It's pretty gritty. It's about 80s crack. It's a pretty decent show if you're up for something that's a bit gritty. Oh, here comes the dog. I won't be on. Like, yeah. My dog's just come in.
My personal choice for TV shows is I'll watch like any sitcom. So like we sort of watch on a bit of a cycle. We watch Friends, Big Bang Theory. What else have we watched? We like Red Dwarf.
Red Dwarf was cracking back in the day. It's always Bottom. Bottom was cracking back in the day.
How I Met Your Mother, like anything like that, we'll quite easily just binge watch that stuff. Like nice,
sweet.
Shows.
So just to jump back, because we're on the theme of TV shows, obviously with Henry Cavill signing up to do the Warhammer TV show, how would you like to see the Warhammer TV show go? What would you if you had the ability to make it in your vision, what would you have it be like?
So for me, I'm quite easy because I mean I like Doctor Who, and I like watching a lot of the old Doctor Who stuff. And everyone sort of, like sometimes Wendy will come in and she'll see like what I'm watching, and she'll laugh at like some of the effects or people, you know, and I'm sort of like, yeah, they're a bit naff, and it's like very much of the time, but the stories are like rock solid. Like the stories are sound, and I'm the same with a lot of stuff now. Like I can forgive a lot of like special effects or props and stuff like that. I mean, not like loads of stuff, but I can forgive quite a lot. As long as the story is interesting and is gripping me. So for me, as long as it's an interesting story and it gets my attention, it makes me want to watch it, I'm quite happy for him to do whatever. Because like if I'm speaking like from a proper selfish personal point of view, like that I'm properly bothered about is like Necrons. Like salamanders, and the TV show is not going to be about Necrons, and it's not going to be about salamanders. So anything after, it's like I'll give it a go and I'll watch it, but I'm not going to know anything about it prior to that, because I'm not massively into like the lore of. I mean, I know the sort of general basic lore, I know the overview, and I know some key things, but I'm not like a big lore nerd. It don't bother me too much, because I mean, gonna upset people, but like it's all made up. Like it's not real.
Oh yeah, of course, of course. But I think for me, I would like to see it like as Cabo's maybe like a kind of inquisitor role, where at the very end we get to see a space marine, because space marines are very rare to see. So I think it would be good to, because it would have to be some more that special effects to have a space marine, and I imagine, I don't know, I'm not a TV guy, but I think it would have to be some pretty good special effects to have that kind of domineering. So I think that would be a good way to end the show, is like him meeting up with either a Chaos Space Marine or a Ultramarine or somebody like that. It's him as an Inquisitor, and
I mean,
maybe like a kind of detective type thing.
I think I agree with that. It's just the thing is Space Marines, like because reading the Horus Heresy books, like obviously it makes it way more. And to be fair, any of the books, but the Horus Heresy especially makes it way more obvious, like that all the Space Marines are individual characters and they're not just a Space Marine. So there's stuff you could do with that, but I do feel like it depends, doesn't it? It depends, because are they making a TV show for Warhammer fans, or are they a TV show? Do you know what I mean? Because like those two things are different.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you're 100% right. But I think with Henry Cavill being involved in it, I think he's going to have a good say in how it goes as well. Because we all know how he's felt about The Witcher. I think it's quite widely known how he was so dishappy and disgruntled with that. So I think he's going to have a lot of influence.
Yeah.
In how that's made.
That's the only thing for me is like I stop. It sounds really pessimistic, but I don't really like get excited for stuff like that, because when it comes, I'll watch it. But then great, and if it's not, then I've not been excited for it. And like I know everyone's hangs on about Henry Cavill, and like it is such a sort of high-profile person that's into Warhammer, and you know, is sort of broken the stereotype a little bit, I guess. But like he's just a person. Like he's just another person. He's just got a lot more money and muscle.
Yeah.
But like he's just but like for me, the big question is like I say, if they're investing the money, and is it Amazon that's doing it?
Yeah, it's Amazon. Yeah,
money in it. Are they going to want to limit their audience to what is essentially still a niche hobby? Popular as like Warhammer is now, it is still very much a hobby, and then you've got to have a within that niche hobby, you've got to have an even smaller group that will watch the show. So like, are they going to limit it to people and like realistic and give it it's exactly what fans want because fans have got all this expanded knowledge, or are they going to make something that, yes, it'll stick to stuff, it'll be like accurate and whatever. With Cavill's involvement, it probably will be, but it will appeal to a broader audience and it'll bring people in, which I think probably is what they want to do because it ultimately will just be another marketing thing. Because I imagine that whatever the show ends up being, there will then be miniatures that will go along with it, and it'll be sort of like, you've seen this, why don't you give this a go? And do you know what I mean? Like it's that sort of thing. So I feel like it's probably not going to be the super in-depth, like, oh, remember this one line from this book? Well, it's referenced. It's going to be
yeah. I would say you're right, and at some point as well, he's going to have to get his shirt off. You know what I mean? So they're going to have to write that in the war somehow. Do you know what I mean? That how Henry Cavill gets his shirt off, or some shower scene or something, just to satisfy the people that like to see Henry Cavill with his top off, I suppose, and make all the people that don't have a body like Henry Cavill's hate him even more. Goddamn Superman. So, out of all the models that you painted, like from the Warhammer stuff to the Lord of the Rings stuff to the Star Wars stuff and the Monster Hunter stuff, what's been your favourite model to paint? As in, like, what's the easiest to get paint on to stick on, or are all the models much of a muchness now?
my favourite model that I've ever painted. I don't know.
Ask me to pick your favourite child, I suppose, but models.
Because the thing, like a lot of the stuff that I've painted, like all my neck, like, I've got like 50 warriors. So like I'm not gonna go, oh, that one Necron warrior. Like,
so you're telling me that you haven't named all your individual Necron warriors? That's terrible.
Which is more appropriate for Necrons. But yeah, I don't really know because I tend to. This is the thing, is like there's definitely models that I've enjoyed painting less. So like ones where I've sort of gone, I need to get this painted. It's a quick paint job will do. Like I'm not going to put loads of time and effort into it. It's going to be fine. But then there's other models where I've painted and I had a lot of fun painting that, and it's still only a very simple paint job, but I really enjoyed painting it, and I'm really happy with the outcome. So like all of my Star Wars Shatterpoint stuff, I loved painting. I absolutely loved painting all my Star Wars Shatterpoint stuff, all individual characters, and it meant that I could just sit and focus and just paint one model and spend like however long I wanted to on it, and then at the end of it, that model's done, and then the next model I pick up is different because it's a different character.
Yeah, I mean, I liked your Ahsoka. I thought she was pretty spot on.
Thanks, man. Okay, I actually, in person, I think my Anakin is maybe my favourite. My Anakin, maybe all my Magna Guards, just because I'm really happy with the OSM.
Yeah, I like the electricity that you had from the vibroblades was really quite cool.
I really enjoyed painting those. But then I've got stuff like my Vulcan model that I did for Golden Demon, which I put like, that's probably the most amount of time I've ever put into painting a model. And I'm like, even though I didn't place or anything, like I'm still happy with how that model looks. It's my style, and I think it's painted really nicely. Obviously, there's room for improvement, but for me, that's one of my favorites. Also, because as well, my moderators on my Discord bought me that. So it's got a bit more like sentimental value to it as well.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't know.
And how long did it take you to do the Vulcan model then?
I think I ended up putting in, I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it was between 30 and 40 hours in total.
That is a lot of time.
Golden Demon entry. For me, when that's a lot of time for one model.
And would you do that again, like going for another Golden Demon? Would you do it again, or have you been there and done that, and it's just not really worth the hassle?
On my bucket list to try again at some point. The thing with me is I very much I've sort of decided this year is the year that I'm going to go and try and do Golden Demon. Like,
cool.
the year, like I sort of looked and went, what have I got going on this year? When is I'm able to? I also look at miniatures at the time because like I'd have to start sort of planning stuff now. Like if I had to have a serious go at it, I'd have to start planning stuff now. I'm looking around at the miniatures that are out at the minute, and there's nothing that's jumping out at me that's making me go, I want to do that. I've got a vision for. And I'll get that every year. I'm not in a rush. It's not like I need to enter every year. I'd rather do it where it's really, really interested in wanting to do, because then I feel more time and effort, I'll get a better result. Yeah, it's something that I definitely want to do. One of my missions is to at least get a pin. I mean, if I could place, that'd be amazing, but I'd love to just get a finalist pin, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
That's my mission statement.
So I think we're a good wee bit after. It's 8:45 now, so if it's all right with you, I want to wrap up there, but we would love to have you back on. The reason I need to go is I've got Love Island starting in 15 minutes. Me and the wife like to watch a wee bit of Love Island on a weeknight. I just want to say thanks very much for coming on. I do apologise for the issues that we had at the very start there. Instagram's like this all the time for us for some reason. Hates letting people in, and then it does eventually come on. So for people that don't already follow you, where can they find you? This is where you can plug yourself now.
Just on Instagram. I post everything I paint on here. And I usually like stuff on my stories as well if I'm doing anything interesting. It's not very often, quite boring. Other than that, you can find me on my YouTube, which is the Pickle Jar, where I post videos. I've got one that is pretty much finished, and I've got another one that I've filmed, so there's going to be a couple of videos out in the next couple of weeks, along with hopefully that Necron one when I get that done, and a bit of a talky one, just looking at my channel and what it's doing and where I'm at with stuff. They're the main places, really. I mean, I'm on Facebook as well, but I don't really do that. I'm on, what's it called? X, Twitter. I'm on there every now and then, but that seems to be dying a death.
Good on you on. Again, Josh, here, man, thanks very much for coming on. Really appreciate you giving up your time coming on tonight. Really do appreciate it. Thanks for everybody that joined us tonight. Thanks again. We never even got to do this. Sally, the link, the weird link that I do to our sponsors, Ballstorm Wargaming and Leak. If you're about Leak, jump in there and get yourself some miniatures, and you can see Simon sometimes who gets the red carpet treatment. Thanks again to Josh and Simon for turning up. Penge, a sad show, mate, that you never turned up tonight, but I understand why you didn't come up. Again, folks, thanks for joining us tonight. Have a lovely evening. Thanks again, Josh. Have a lovely rest of your evening, and I'll see you all later, folks. Bye.
Later.